Good evening, everyone. It's Rod Smith, and tonight I'm going to take on a different approach. And this is kind of about life. So I had a very unique experience today. Today I went down to Montgomery, our state's capital, and I got to participate in the Higher Education Day with some of our politicians, different students from other universities, and all types of people that were there. And it was a very unique experience. If you know me, you know I'm a huge fan of politics, and so to get to see the politics play out right then and there, and hear how the contributions that they make towards people furthering their education here in the state of Alabama, it was a pretty neat experience. Uh, but as they all got up there, one gentleman got up there and he used a basketball reference, and he talked about when you take the ball and you slam it through the hoop, it's called a dunk. And when you drop the ball, it creates a turnover. So he kind of used that as a reference to tell us, as we're trying to further our career, as we're trying to better our lives, remember, you want to dunk the ball. You don't want to drop it. And that he talked about, let your why drive you. You want to drive that ball, and then you want to dunk it. And so, as I sat there, I thought about my why. I talked about a couple weeks ago how I wasn't at the place that I thought I needed to be by this time in life. But as he was talking, I realized that I'm here now. I'm enjoying what I'm doing now, and I want to expand that. And so that's why I'm in school now for education. And when he talked about it, you know, I thought about my why. Even though I got here late, I do remember in 2001 making a distinctive remark in my head where I said I would never be this type of teacher or that type of teacher, and there was a reason why. This was the year of September 11th. I was in the fifth grade, and I had a teacher who was just hard on me. And I know sometimes we're harder on people because we want to push them, but this was not that. Man, this woman was mean to me. I mean, she was mean, and I'm not usually one to play the victim mentality or the victim card, but man, she was rough on me. And during that time, that's when I really started to struggle with math. Once things started becoming fractions, or we started having the word problems, it really became an issue for me, and so I kind of lost confidence when it came down to math, and I really didn't regain that confidence until I got to high school. Uh, but I remember there was one day where I thought I was on fire. I was getting my work done, and I was passing all my reading and my history or my social studies at that time, the little science lessons that we did, the writing, and then we got to the math towards the end of the day, and I I'm telling you, I was feeling good. I thought I had it down packed, and so I finished before everyone in the class. And I even reviewed because I knew that was going to be the next thing she said. I went back over my work and made sure that I did everything to the best of my knowledge, and I thought I did. Well, I turned uh, my paper in, and she had an aide in the class because we had a student that required one. But the aide would sometimes grade our assignments and things, and she asks her to grade my paper since she said, "Mr. Smith, are you sure you're done?" I said, "Yes, ma'am. I finished it, and I've already checked over my work because I knew that was going to be something that you would ask, so I wanted to, you know, be ahead on it." And she goes on. She tells the aide, "Well, I tell you what, go ahead and grade his paper for me." And so she starts grading it, and she said, I'm telling you right now, he's gonna get a 67. He's gonna get a 67." And of course, all the kids were looking around like, "Ooh, ooh." And I remember I was just sitting there smiling because, again, I thought I had this thing. I was really, really confident that I had it. And then once the aide finished grading, she just started laughing. And then she goes, "What'd he get? What'd he get?" And she just shook her head as she was smirking about the whole thing. She goes, "A 67." And she said, "I told you. I told you. It's because you don't apply yourself." And I just remember thinking, I really did review what I did. I believed that I did well on that paper. You've never reviewed with me. You've never sat me down. And I know that that wasn't really a thing back then. It's something that we focus on a lot now when we see a child struggling. Uh, but I remember just looking back on it then and saying, "Man, wow, that was mean." And I remember all these kids were laughing at me. There was a little girl that I had a crush on back then, and she didn't laugh actually. She just kind of looked, and I remember that feeling of embarrassment, that shame that I felt. And I remember coming home to my mom with tears in my eyes. I said, if I was ever a teacher, I'd never be like her. I hate her. And at that time, I did. Man, I did. I was always a kid that loved going to school. I loved going to school. And that woman took that joy away from me. I hated school for the next few years until I got to the eighth grade, where my teacher, who was my homeroom teacher and geography teacher, who also happened to be my neighbor in Virginia, she paid attention to me again. And I remember that love and that support that she gave me. I even wrote a book about my life. You know, here I was in eighth grade trying to talk about my life. Guess what? She never laughed at me. She never thought about it. She said, I'd like to read that sometime when you get a chance. I brought it to her, and we had these tests that we were taking. I can't remember what they were. It wasn't the SOL testing. But we had a test that we were taking, and she read my little 60-page book and a composition notebook that I wrote. And I saw her chuckle a couple times, and I saw her wipe a tear from her eyes. And that made a difference to me. It made a huge difference to me. And so, as I have grown up here, and I've had a chance to work in education here now for 6 years, I know I do things a little bit different than most people. You know, and God's honest truth, I'm actually a little weird. I'm well aware that I'm kind of weird, and but I embrace it now. You know, hey, listen, I think it's strange when your people aren't a little weird. Nobody's perfect, I don't believe, but I do things a little bit unorthodox in comparison to most people that uh, work in education, where sometimes I take the smallest stories that the kids tell me, whether it's silly or not, and I make it seem like it's the most important thing I've ever heard. Or I take a very serious situation and I let them know that I'm here with you. Why? Because I remember just the way I felt with my eighth grade teacher, how I felt just because she paid a little bit of attention to me. And so I try to pay that forward to every student that I come into contact with, even if something that they're talking about is not really that big a deal. Why? Because sometimes you just need someone to hear you, to see you. I don't think we really grasp just how big a deal that it means to some people. As a kid, it meant the world to me. And the one thing that I vowed that I would never do is belittle someone like my fifth grade teacher. Here I am some 22, 23 years later, and that thing still just it plays in my psyche all the time. Why? Because she made me feel like trash, and that was one thing that I said, no matter where I go in life, I would never try to make someone feel like that. And so I said that long story to say this: that is my why, because I believe I can make a profound difference in young people's lives. I truly believe that when this is all said and done, that the better angels will appear, and that some of the things, some of the challenges that you see on TV that are going on with education, I think that the pendulum can swing back to a safe place. But that's going to require us to have an all hands on deck approach. And so my why is to try to change lives. My why is to avoid being my fifth grade teacher. My why is to try and my best to do for someone what my eighth grade teacher, my eighth grade geography teacher did for me. That's what drives me. And so that is my why. And I hope and I pray that one day I can be a blessing to you all and to your kids, to any student that might be watching this now, because somehow you all see things that I post. But that was just, man, today was it was a really awesome experience. Man, that if you have never participated in it and you are in school right now, I'm telling you, you are missing out on a grand opportunity to go down there, to be with other schools, to meet your legislators. And I'm kind of, obviously I'm on a scholarship, and so I'm very very thankful that they made it mandatory. I needed that experience. That thing motivated me today. It motivated me to try to go and make a difference in this world. And so I'm pretty fired up about the whole thing. So listen, God bless y'all. I didn't mean for this to even be a 10-minute video. I just realized as I looked up at the time how long this has been going. But uh, I found my why, or I really found my why today. And so if you are thinking about going forward with some new chapter in your life, do it. I am telling you, as God is my witness, do it. Take that why, whatever that why is, and you let it drive you. Don't ever, don't ever be that fifth grade teacher to someone. And don't let that fifth grade teacher to you deter you from being who you are. Hey, I'm like I said, I'm not a math guy. I'm not a math guy. But I would never, 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 ever treat someone like that just because they didn't know something that I was good at. So, God bless you all. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I will see you all soon with some sort of story. Good night.